My name is Worawit O from Phuipon University Hospital. Thank you very much. It's certainly an honor to be here today. My topic today is etiology and the classification of the elbow instability. I have the culture. So just a quick outline. First, we go through and try to understand the concept of the stabilizer of the elbow. And the second, the mechanism of the injury caused the simple elbow dislocation. And then recognize the pattern of the instability in these two particular. The first one, PLRI, posterolateral rotatory instability. And the second one is PMRI, posteromedial rotatory instability. This is a very nice study by Dr. Bernard Morey, who burned expert elbow. That's what done by sectioning or removing a different portion of the ligament and capsule to determine which one are the most important. Now, it is true that when you flex the elbow at 90 degrees, the medial collateral ligament is bearing the full weight in valgus, but less important in valgus as you flex. The medial collateral ligament. So in the other hand, on extension, the articulation extremely important and less important in valgus state. The articulation, as you know, very, very important and less important, important in valgus and less important in valgus. So the articulation bear the mode of state across the elbow. That's why you need to fix the anteromedial facet fracture of the colonoid. This is the diagram that's proposed by Dr. Odisco in the ICL 2001. It's like a composed of the static and the dynamic. For the static, composed of the outer wall and inner wall, it seems like to be like a castle. So the primary stabilizer are the ulnohumeral joint, where the lead is taking about the integrity of the colonoid. And then the other two primary constants are the anterior bundle of the MCL and the lateral ulnar collateral ligament. And then the inner wall or the secondary line of constant that become important if the first three are violated. The radiocapitular joint is in there as well, and the common, and then the other two secondary stabilizers are the anterior bundle of the MCL and the common extensor and common flexor tendon. For the dynamic muscle, is the dynamic stabilizer provided protection or of constant. So we talk about the spectrum of the elbow instability. It's like when you have a white light, when the light get across the prism, that generates the spectrum of the color light. If we think about that prism as a triangle of constant, and some of those are disrupted, the spectrum of the injury that will be predictable. Based on the part of the triangle, what part of the constant, and what part of the structure that disrupt or altered. If you know the pattern of the instability, you will also know the structure that involved. So let's talk about the posterolateral rotatory instability. The PLRI is combined T-dimension motion pattern. It cannot be recreated this mechanism from the laboratory. You can create this mechanism like a pivot chip of the knee. It's rarely typically occur for an outstretched hand. The elbow typically extended and then begin to flex with an axial load across the elbow. And normal elbow, as you know, that is the valgus alignment. And because when you fall down on your hand, your body tends to move inward away from the hand. You don't tend to fall and hit your forehead on your hand. Your head would land over there somewhere. So that active like a supination torque of the forearm on the humerus. In the other way, the humeral internal rotation in a fixed forearm. So with this force and moment allow the elbow, there is a mechanism set up for the PLRI. This is the horizontal from the lateral, force from the lateral to the medial, allow the back and allow the front, disruption of the soft tissue and bone. So with this the algorithm, you see that the fourth is supination. The forearm is a unit like a radius and ulna, the supination of the ulna. And the distal humerus is axial force. And then the humerus is internal rotation on the forearm, which cause supination movement of the forearm. If they got further force, you might see the radial head fracture and even the coronoid fracture in the cerebral triad injury. So here is the cerebral triad injury. You will see the dislocation of the elbow, and the radial head is destroyed, and the coronoid tip fracture is a very, very common pattern in the cerebral triad injury. We will talk about the state of disruption. For the PLRI, state 1 is some like subluxate of the radial head going down a little bit under the trochlea, under the capitulum. It would involve the injury to the LUCL in most cases. So then we go to the further state 2. With the coronoid, we go under the trochlea. In state 2 would involve some injury to the extensor tendon and the capsule. It would be like called the pulse dislocation. At that position of what's called the unstable equilibrium, that could be either way from here. It could go dislocation and go to state 3, and maybe it could reduce and go back to where it came from. So we go to state 3 with a posterior dislocation of the coronoid and the radial head both behind the humerus. State 3 we divided into A, B, and C. In state 3A, intact the anterior bundle, so when you reduce it, the joint is stable. In state 3B is with not. And state 3C, at this picture with irritated here, would have disruption of the common flexor tendon as well. And those are gauzy unstable elbow. So the next we talk about the varus posteromedial rotatory instability. The last one is the LUCL, right, in the picture. So you have the pure varus load, and the humerus is the external rotating. So that dive is like a dive punch, dive the trochlea through the coronoid to the medial facet of coronoid, and the ligament is torn. So the key component of the PMI is fracture subluxation. The key component is the fracture of the anteromedial facet of the coronoid and the LCL disruption. So in the lateral side, the radial head oftentimes is spare. It's a medial-based problem. The joint can even stay stable. Depend on what degree of friction you have, a larger or the smaller fragment of the coronoid fracture. So the PMRI involves disruption of the LUCL, parts of the common extensor muscle, sometimes very, very minimal parts of the capsule, and so the lateral side, the radial head is intact. So for take-home message, to understand the constant of the stabilizer of the elbow, and then know the mechanism of the injury, like a simple elbow dislocation. Each case is different in setting. Recognize the pattern of the instability, the PMRI or PLRI. If, as we know from this literature, if we know the pattern of the instability, you will know the structure that involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Waris, for